Cool. Well, thank you very much, and welcome to the day 4 of the STEM Careers Fair. I'm just going to get straight into it, and I'll pass it over to the team at Wyma.
Thank you. So I'll just introduce myself. I'm Ruben Miller. I'm the engineering manager here at Wyma. I've been here 5.5 years now. Next to me, Kent, who's in charge of the R&D department here, and Toby, who's brand new. I've met him 5 minutes ago in our marketing team. So we brought him along so he can see what happens here as well. So thanks for coming along to this. Wyma's got quite a close relationship with the university. Every year we've been off of the past 3 years. We've had 2 final year projects in the engineering department. We've taken on summer students, we've taken on MEM students, and we've employed 2 to 3 graduates for the last 4 years. So we've got quite a strong graduate program, and we really like this relationship we've got with the university. It's working well from both sides. We'll probably get into that later in the presentation, but I will go to slide 2. So what do we do? So we look after, we manufacture post-harvest food processing equipment. So we start where customers have pulled produce out of the ground. They've taken it into a pack house. That's where we start. So we typically start with a bin tipper, tipping into a production line, and comes out the other end in a bag packed and cleaned. So to do this, Kent will go through that process in more detail, but to do this, we start with the sales side. We've got a team of salespeople out in the field. They are going around generating leads. We'll get them back, and we'll put together sort of concept layouts, and then we will design the individual pieces of equipment, work out how they go in a line as a total package. We'll automate that line, and we will install that line. So there's a small selection of the equipment that we have up on the screen there. We started many years ago and started dominating the industry with a vegetable cleaning machine. It's this little machine up here. It was a world leader. This is sort of around the time when people switched to buying carrots and potatoes that were clean rather than dirty. So we were the first ones to make that equipment, and we've been the market leaders ever since. Now, what happened is we made those equipment polishers. We were selling them all over the world, and people started asking for conveyors either side of those polishers. Then they started asking for inspection equipment and bin tippers, and we grew and grew in our product range. We were still selling them as individual products, but probably 5-10 years ago, we decided we wanted to be the overall solution provider. So we started putting all those pieces of equipment together. We started doing the automation of those equipment, and we started doing the installation. So we've grown, and we're now a solution provider. After sales is a huge part of the business now too. So we've got after sales agents, after sales personnel based in Australia, UK, all over Europe, and through a partner in the USA. Any questions about what we do? Just butt in with questions. Happy for you to turn off your mics and join in, so it's not just us talking. So it's a video.
So this is just a short video outlining kind of what we do, and we're talking about how we integrate with some of the customers. So hopefully we can run this.
And I was prepared for this because I know these things always go well. And I downloaded all these. No, company good. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Oh, that bit. Oh, well, we'll go back to our slideshow. We get them.
Can you go to the next screen? I'll put your mouse on the next screen.
So one thing you can test. Do you want to get someone to bring the walking computer over and they can switch into the video? Yeah. Sorry, technology failed here. We'll move to the next slide. What's really important to us is the workplace and our values. So a lot of companies talk about values and don't really live by them. We really do. This is a sort of project we all worked on together to create values, and we constantly work on them. So our values are flexibility. Firstly, so people that come on board here, it's important to note that if you say, come on, this isn't you guys, but when we employ people in the fabrication department, we employ them and they're employed as a welder, but we tell them at the outset, if we need help in assembly, we'll move you to assembly. If we need help loading a container, expect to move there. When you come in on the graduate program, the graduate program is developed as such, so you move around different parts of the business, but the expectation is that if we need you to travel and help with an installation in Canada, that you'll be open to doing that. So we want people, and we employ people that are open and flexible to doing bits that are not maybe not exactly what they were trained in, but when the business needs people to fill in and help out, that's what we expect, and that's what everyone here does. So everyone's like this. So it makes it a really nice place to work because everyone's moving between different departments and learning and helping each other. We respect each other. So if you walk around here, everyone's nice to each other. We don't get angry with each other. When things go wrong, we rally behind and work out how to fix the problem rather than playing the blame game. We like people that bring energy to the business, people that get up and go and want to try something new and just provide the energy to the business. Sustainability. So this is both in our staff. So we want to make sure that we're not overworking people. We want to make sure that everyone's enjoying the actual work side of it. But on the same side as a business, we're looking at sustainable solutions. How can we make sure Wyma is going to provide the industry sustainable solutions? So we're looking at wastewater treatment systems. We're looking at reducing power consumption. And then we're also looking at our business, making sure it's sustainable. We're currently building a new facility because where we are currently is too small. We're looking at, we look at the risk of all the jobs we take on, making sure we're doing the right jobs, making sure we're employing the right people and growing the business for the future. We look at what manufacturing we do in New Zealand versus offshore to make sure that we are remaining competitive in the business, and we have honour. We stand behind what we do as individuals and as a business. So what's our vision? We want to be the world's most trusted manufacturer of post-harvest handling equipment. Mission to create innovative post-harvest handling solutions that perform year after year. So we don't just sit back and manufacture the same products year after year. We've got a lot of engineers here. If we were just pressing copy, paste, print on an old design, we wouldn't need anywhere near the engineers we've got. But we want to be innovative. We're always changing our designs. We're always improving them. We're always looking at how we can be more competitive. And we're also, the reason Kent's here, the R&D department, we also realize we need to be looking at really innovative new ideas to keep ourselves ahead in this business. So We really put a lot of effort into that space. Putting numbers around it, last year we spent $2 million on R&D. 2 years ago, we probably spent 500,000. So we've really ramped up our R&D a lot. We've got some goals that we're working towards. We're on track for these. These were set in 2020. So there are 5-year goals to double our customer base, double our revenue, and double our profit. Strategic objectives. People. So we spend a lot of time training people. We really hope people stay on board for a long time because we do put a lot of effort into training them. We put people on courses, we send them around the world, learning from installs, various things to develop them. We have, this isn't just engineers, this is the whole business. So we put people through computer courses here for people that aren't so computer savvy. We do a lot of things with all the people in the business. Product, I'll talk a bit about product already, constantly developing it, working with customers on innovative solutions. I probably didn't mention, we win a lot of our jobs because we're willing to do design custom equipment. So we'll work really closely with customers to design what they want. And the customer experience, we're looking at the whole experience of the customer from sales through the design process, through installation to manufacturing to after sales support. So we look after everything the whole way through. Business and market development, we are always looking at new places we can sell equipment and new markets. So it might sound strange, but New Zealand's our smallest market at the moment. We've recently taken on a New Zealand salesperson to grow the New Zealand market, and they're looking more into the fruit industry. So predominantly we've been in carrots, potatoes, onions. They're looking in apples, kiwi fruit, because it's obviously a lot more of what we do in New Zealand. So we're looking to diversify into that area. And operational excellence, delivery and full on time to specs and within in budget, which is challenging when we do a lot of custom equipment, which is custom equipment R&D by its nature is very hard to plan for. I'm going to hand over to Kent here. Is this you?
Oh, I can do it if you want me to.
Oh no, I was going to talk about this one. So this is we've got our headquarters in New Zealand. So we've got about 150 staff in New Zealand at the moment, about 30 to 40 engineers. I say 30 to 40. We've got 40 engineers. Some of them are working in the as project managers. Some are working as automation engineers. Some are working as mechanical design engineers. Some are in the R&D department. So quite a few engineers in New Zealand. In Australia, and we've got salespeople in New Zealand too. In Australia, we have a sales team and we have an after sales team over there to service equipment, service and install equipment in Australia. In Europe, we've got, in the Czech Republic, we've got an office which has, again, project managers, designers, being mechanical and automation. And they are ramping up and doing more and more manufacturing and assembly over there as well. So there's been a lot of growth over there. Growth driven by extra demand and also the cost of shipping from New Zealand to Europe has gone up a lot. So it's been more competitive. We're manufacturing more over there. We also don't have the ability, we're also maxed out on our capacity in New Zealand. So we're really busy. And then in the UK, we have an office which again has sales, service, and project management. We don't have design engineers there at the moment, but we do have project managers there. Now, where we're unique is because we're based in little old New Zealand, and we take on graduates. We know that graduates typically want to go and do an OE at some stage. So we can accommodate that. We're pushing it. We've currently got a guy that started on the graduate program here a couple of years ago. He's been in Prague for a year now, and a guy that started the year before that is working as a project manager out of our UK office. He's going to be there 2 years before he moves back. So there's opportunity for movement within the company on, I guess, a semi-permanent basis. There's also good opportunity when we do installations to travel. So in the coming 6 months, we've got graduates. I'll talk about graduates. We've also got other engineers going, but we've got graduates going to installations in Canada, the US, Spain, Australia. So there's a good opportunity to travel and learn within roles here. So some key facts and figures. Equipment's used in 52 different countries. Handling 260,000 tonnes of potatoes a year. As I said, veggie polishers were our key product that we started the business on. We've made almost 1,300 of them. At Wyma, it's really cool working here. We've got people from all over the world. We've got 24 languages spoken at present. In the engineering department, we're probably 60% Kiwis, 40% foreigners. So we've got a lot of diversity there, which makes it really interesting. We've been going for 58 years, so a pretty long running business. It is a family owned business by Andrew Barclay, and he's heavily involved in the business, really knows what's going on, very hands-on, yeah, I mean, he knows the business so well, it's a really good working for him. And Kent here is going to go into a bit more detail about some of the aspects I've talked about. So I'll hand over to Kent. Oh, is there any questions on what I've said before we carry on? Zoe, I know you're dying to say something.
Because if you're not comfortable unmuting your mic, feel free to put them into the chat.
Okay, I thought Zoe was going to say something. Right, Kent.
So Ruben gave you guys quite a nice overview of kind of what our company has achieved and what our values are. Hopefully in this next part, I'll give you a bit more detail about what we actually do and how we achieve that, or how we've been so successful. So what does our equipment actually do? This is just for those that aren't necessarily familiar with what goes on in a pack house, which is what I was before I started. So obviously produce is harvested in a field. So we typically specialize in potatoes and carrots, or root vegetables and or onions, but we have applied our equipment to a huge range of sort of produce that you can harvest. But generally, when the produce is harvested, it goes into a bin, and then those bins are delivered to the pack house. And from that point there onwards, we basically make the equipment to get the produce to a state where it can be delivered directly to the consumer in your supermarkets. So that's what you can see on the left there and on the right. So the way we do that is through, well, I've broken it down to 5 stages. We first have our equipment which handles the line entry. So these are typically tippers which tip these big, probably 1 ton bins of potatoes or carrots, for example, into either a wet hopper, which is like a large bathtub essentially, or into an even flow or creep feed hopper, which is like just a conveyor belt which gently catches the produce as the produce is tipped onto it. So we make a range of options there for then collecting the produce. So this is very dirty. It still has lots of dirt from the field. It still has lots of stones in there. It has lots of vine and all sorts of foreign material. So the first thing that we do after we've got the produce into our line is we start to remove that foreign material. So that's dependent a lot on the site-specific conditions, on like where you are in the world, on what you're going to have in that produce. So it's very common that we have destoners, so systems that essentially remove the stones from within the produce or from around the produce base, and those have various ways of doing that. Then we also have hedgehog systems which pull the vines out of the produce or the bulk of the produce and then allow the remainder of that to go through. And then we also have like these things called horizontal debris removers, which are got pointy rubber fingers which allow the produce to be conveyed along, but the dirt to be conveyed off the end. Feel free to jump in, Ruben.
Yeah, I get what's each line is very, very specific for what they're cleaning and where it's harvested from. So a potato line in England might be very different to a potato line in the US. The potato line in England might be grown in a field with clay that really sticks to the potatoes. It might have, probably not in this, probably in Australia more often, it might have been a vineyard in the past. There's a whole lot of old vine from grapes getting harvested. So your solution has to be tailored to each site. Some fields in England, 50% of what you're pulling out is rocks. So you've got this huge destoning system versus something in Australia, different parts of Australia where it's basically carrots grown in sand where there's almost no rocks.
Yeah, and the rocks could be, the size of a basketball, and you have to be able to handle those sorts of things.
Yeah. So no two jobs are the same is what I'm trying to get to. So what makes it interesting is the uniqueness of each job.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I've laid out here is kind of maybe a typical way of handling the produce, but again, where you place the equipment on the line again is specific to the customer's preferences and how they'd like to handle the produce. So you may, for example, do a bit more preparation before and after sorting and grading, perhaps. So the third stage is around product preparation, and this is around cleaning the produce. So this is either running it through essentially like a large washing machine, which we call like a barrel washer, or running it through our one of our Flagstaff products, which is the polisher, which is essentially a large brushing machine that brushes all the produce. And then after that, as part of that as well, that preparation prior to being packaged is we also need to get the produce cool enough that we can increase its shelf life and also potentially dry the produce such that it doesn't damage the packaging, or also minimize the bacterial growth on the surface of it. So then after product preparation, we then use machinery to sort the produce by size and or grade the produce. So the grading can either be done optically or can be done manually by people through inspection tables, which Ruben mentioned earlier. And the grading by size again is based on customer preference and or where you are in the world and the shape of your produce. So we have things like lift roller sizes or screen sizes to grade the produce by the particular diameter.
And they may be so you've got some very mechanical means of sizing, and then there's, as Ken mentioned, the optical means. So optically being these amazing camera systems that produce goes flying past and recognizes the shape and checks for defects and sorts them according to size or defects. So some pretty cool technology that we work with there.
Yeah. And so then the last stage, once the product is being graded and sorted, is then being packaged into bags or sacks or crates, depending on where it's going to next, and then before it then gets shipped off to the supermarket. So the key thing here is that we, as Ruben said, 5 years ago, we went to selling kind of individual machines to then offering a complete line solution to the customer. So a customer can essentially come to us with an empty pack house, and we can provide them with the means and machinery to make, deliver the full solution to them that they essentially don't need to see anyone else. So maybe I'll go into a bit more into detail about how we achieve that. So just taking you through the steps. Feel free to say any questions or anything throughout, because it's a bit weird just talking to a screen, but yeah. So the first stage is we obviously consult with the customers. Either the customers approach us or we go out and seek them through the sales team. And generally they would come to us with either an empty shed or a shed planned to be built, or an existing shed where they want to add some extra machinery on. And then they would describe their field conditions and how much produce they want to be able to put through there, and their specific kind of what they specifically want to see from us in our equipment. And then from there, we start to sketch up some concept designs and do some concept layouts, and work with them to kind of finalize how that machinery is going to be laid out within the pack house, and yeah, basically, and giving them a plan and budget of that. Yep. Then after that, that concept layout is then passed across to a project manager, and that project manager is then in charge of delivering that, well, working directly with the customer through the finer details of how we'll actually get this line installed and what the specific details of each bit of machinery is. So that project manager then works with the engineering team and delivers spec sheets and such that the engineering team will then make the CAD models for each of the machines and then build up the full detailed layout of their equipment. So throughout this process, as Ruben mentioned, we don't necessarily just make off-the-shelf machinery that everything's the same and for every job it's just click and done. Every customer has very different preferences, and normally we're very accommodating to slightly adjusting our equipment to fit their needs and their pack house. So there is always, that's why we need that large engineering team to do those tweaks throughout that whole design process. Do you have anything you want to add there?
I will go quickly. So we've got design and project manage. So the way the engineering team's broken up here is we've got engineers that are working as project managers, and we've got engineers that are working as design engineers. So the design engineers are designing the individual pieces of equipment. The project managers are working out how all those pieces of equipment go together into a whole line. So I will go through the sort of growth path of people in this business, but one part of that path is starting in design, and then some people want to move to project management, so they end up moving to project management. Some don't, which is fine, and they end up becoming managers of products. So there's different ways where you can progress through this company, but I will go through that in more detail later.
Yeah, so once that layout and all the machinery models are finalized, we then obviously make the drawings, and then those drawings are then passed off to purchasing and off to a factory, such that we start to manufacture that equipment. So here at Wyma in New Zealand, we have the ability to do CNC machining, and we laser cut and fold the majority of our equipment. We also have a big fabrication department welding the tanks together. We also do all the surface coatings on our machinery, and then we have a large assembly factory where we assemble the final parts of the machine.
So that's quite unique for New Zealand. It means we can do R&D really, really quickly. We can design it, take it down to the factory, make it, modify it, and go around in circles really, really quickly. so we can be more innovative. And as a new designer, that's essential that you can design it, go and talk to the people that are going to be manufacturing it, get that feedback during the design phase, and then again during the manufacturing stage. So it means you can develop as an engineer much quicker. I know people that have gone to jobs and they design in New Zealand, the manufacturing's in China, and it's really hard to understand design for manufacture, because you're just not in the same building, not in the same country. So we're very unique in that respect here.
Yeah, I mean, we're unique in the fact that we can do the majority of the stuff in-house. We outsource not very much of our equipment, and so also the design office is just a few steps away from the line assembly or from the fabrication team. So it's very common for the designers to go down, talk to one of the team leaders and say, hey, what do you think about this design? How can we maybe make it a bit easier for you to make? And that helps you grow very quickly, as Ruben said, as a designer.
And the culture is they're not going to laugh at you if you have a stupid question. They're supportive. They will help you and show you how they think it should be done. So it's very encouraging.
They want to be involved with the design, because they don't want it to come all the way through the process to the drawings and then be like, this is ridiculous, how do you expect me to do this? So it's a good culture around that. Yeah. And then lastly, once we've made all the equipment, as Ruben said, the majority of our markets are offshore. We basically put it in shipping containers and then send it across the world, or all around the world, where it will be installed. And then we would send a team across to the site and unpack all the shipping containers and install it on site, and then commission it. So as you can see, there's a lot of JCB driving, a lot of lining it up within the pack house, warehouse, and then getting everything all aligned, and then the actual commissioning of running the first bit of produce through the line.
So the commissioning stage, it's very much a mechanical and automation commissioning. So you've got the mechanical guys making sure that the carrots are flowing properly through a flume. You've got the angles of that flume right. They're transitioning nicely from one conveyor to another. They're not getting hung up on anything. All the waste is going where you expect it to. And then the automation guys are making sure that all the timing of the systems is working well. So say you shut down, say there's a shutdown on the line, they ensure that the polisher isn't overloaded with produce. They may make sure water doesn't end up going all over the floor, make sure water levels are maintained in tanks, filters are filtering properly. Some of these installs, they can, do we talk about the size of our lines and them later on? I'm sure we do.
No, maybe.
Yeah, so our projects can range in value from a couple of $100,000 to our biggest job we're doing at the moment is in Spain. It's for the biggest potato processor in Spain. It's we're part of a $400 million upgrade they're doing. We're doing $14 million of that. And the install for that from an automation side is 12 weeks. From a mechanical side, probably talking 4 or 5 months. So they're pretty big jobs, some of these. We don't, I'm not saying if you came on board, you'd go away for 5 months, but if you wanted to, you equally probably could. So as a graduate, going to site and actually commissioning some equipment is just invaluable experience. Everyone we get on board, we try and get to and install.
Yeah, and so then after we've installed and commissioned it, and hopefully ironed out most of the bugs, or if there's any issues, and it's running smoothly, then we provide an after-sales service. And so the key thing here is we have genuine parts that we make, Wyma parts, and we supply those to the customers, and we get requests come in for more parts when required, and we also provide a servicing servicing service, essentially, where we send our team or members of our team around to the sites looking at or replacing bearings or parts as needed, and or trying to work out issues that the customer may have with any equipment. So we have a good warranty scheme where we support our customers through that, and that after sales team has been growing a lot since in the last maybe 3 years or so. Yeah.
We're also looking at other ways we can better support our customers. So we've got a system, an automation system we've developed that we've called SmartLine, where we can monitor all the loads on on our equipment, on our lines. So we can see if motors are experiencing high torque. We can see if water levels are changing unexpectedly. So we can see overloads, and we can adjust automation programs to balance lines out better. And we're working towards predicting failures such as bearing failures on site remotely, so that we can improve the customer's uptime.
Yeah, so that's the full process of what we offer. I just want to really emphasize here that every single line is unique. And so you have different arrangements of machinery, different machinery in each line. So every single site you go to or you work with is kind of a new way of doing things. And so you're constantly learning, which is quite nice. It's part of this job. Yeah.
So your engineers, are they working on individual projects, or are they working on the same component over a wide range of projects?
We have people that are specialists. So we've got someone that's a specialist in conveyors, and he's called a product manager. So he manages conveyors. He has a team of engineers working under him that design those conveyors. But he's responsible for making sure that we're competitive, looking after any warranty problems, looking at what the competition's doing and making sure we're ahead of them. So he's largely focused on conveyors, or the conveyor group, because there's quite a few different conveyors within a conveyor group, different styles. And then you've got the engineers working on conveyors. Now, we don't keep people working on conveyors forever. So we try and move people around. But the idea is you'll say, come and design conveyors for 6 months and then move on to something else, because you do need to spend a decent amount of time designing something before you really understand exactly how that piece of equipment is working, and you can design it efficiently. So yes, there are specialists in different products, but no, we've got 50 products and we've got 30 engineers. We've probably got more than 50 products. So there's a lot of products to manage. So there's a lot of diversity.
Yeah, I'd probably more think of that 6-month period as more of a training period, so you can get efficient and familiar with the design, because we have a lot of parametric designs where, if you really know how the design works, you can effectively adjust that for the customer conditions. But if you don't, it takes you a little bit longer.
Going from that, I was just wondering, how large are normally the design teams, and sort of the number of people in each one, and how do they sort of interact with each other?
Well, if we look at a design team, so I said we've got this product manager that's looking after conveyors, as my example. So there's currently probably 3 people working alongside him designing conveyors, but each product group is made up of people from throughout the business. So there's the 3 designers, but there's also the team leader that assembles conveyors. There's the person that is experienced installing conveyors, and there's someone from the fabrication department that is involved in manufacturing the welding side of the conveyors. So typically there might be 6 people in a team. There'll also be someone from sales. Typically they're from overseas. So we're getting the correct feedback as to what features we want on those products.
Yeah, and sort of keeping them multidisciplinary sort of type things, so you've gained the input from all the different types of the process.
Yeah. Sorry, did I answer that fully?
Yeah, no, that answered great. Thanks, Ruben.
No worries.
Yeah, one nice thing that I've felt working here with Wyma is we have a strong, well, we really value the input from people from different parts of the business. I mean, engineering, although you may be a great mechanical engineer, you don't necessarily know what's going on in the field or how it's exactly fabricated or what the customers are wanting. So, we really value the opinions from everyone across the business, and so that's kind of key to making a good product.
A good example is where this team approach is important is we've got support structures, and we've got these adjustable feet on the bottom of support structures. Each one of those feet costs $150, and we've been tasked by sales to make it cheaper. Well, the obvious thing, the reason those adjustable feet are there is so that when you get to site, it's very easy to level up the piece of equipment. So as an engineer, we can sit here going, oh, we want to save money, we'll just get rid of the adjustable feet. Simple. We've saved $300. Then you talk to the salesman and he goes, awesome, great, done. Then you talk to the guy installing it and he says, well, it's going to take me another X number of hours to install the line. You go back to sales and they say, well, fine, we charge for installation time by the hour. Perfect. So if you don't, so the end result is we get rid of the adjustable feet, because it doesn't matter that it takes us longer to install it, because we're charging that on a time basis. So if you just talk to the installation guy, he's furious because it takes him longer, but he doesn't understand the full picture. So that's the sort of a simple example of why we need this, everyone from throughout the business involved.
Yeah, a holistic view on the product, I guess. Yeah.
I'd like to say it's that simple. We haven't actually reached agreement on that one. We've still got site guy fighting with sales guy, because site guy, he doesn't want to spend a long time away from home. So you've got to take that into account too.
What do your internship roles require? Like, what do people do in them?
What do people do in them? They're very varied. So when we started this program a few years ago, I said that you were going to spend 3 months in procurement, 3 months in assembly, 3 months in fabrication, and 3 months in design. And that sounded really good. In reality, it doesn't work like that, because that is the intention. And we intend on getting people through all the areas of the business. But depending on the person, depending on where needs are in the business, that can change. So we've had, of last year's intake, we took on 3 graduates last year. One of them's been in Kent's team doing R&D. So he's been, and we'll talk about the actual product later, but he's been helping on a parsnip cutting machine. And he's been designing, I guess he's been tweaking the design, designing little attachments as guys are trialing this machine. He's been working on a mud separation project where he's gone down to a real site here and helped install equipment. What else has he done? He's been largely in your department the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, we've really let him take the lead on some things, like designing a new pressure vessel for us for another concept that we're working on. And I mean, he's been doing the assembly, working on site, doing the assembly as well, doing quick R&D, which is like cutting, drilling, and all those sorts of things that you need to learn about how those processes work. And purchasing and things like that.
Yeah, and he will continue on, and he's going to go to site, so he's going to travel to Canada in July to assist with an installation there. And then I'll get him back, and I want him to spend time in the factory. I've been talking to him, what does he want to do in the future? So he said, I want to spend some time in the factory, learn how to fold material. It's very hard to design folded sheet metal parts if you haven't actually folded them yourself. You know the capabilities of the machine. So he's going to do a bit of that. We've got another guy that's been spent 3 months in the factory. So he started in the factory, did a whole lot of assembly work, Now he's moved into design. He's designing conveyors and support structures at the moment. A week ago, the project delivery guys said to me, we're really swamped. I need someone to help with what we call layout work, which is putting together these big layouts. So he's gone over there to help with some layouts. I've got technical writing. So we've got a technical writing department that puts manuals together, describes how to, you might go through and describe how to change a belt, how to change bearings, which can be quite complicated. So there's a need for someone in there. So that may be a place I move them to. We've got guys that are come through mechatronics. So they want to do some of this programming and automation side of it. So one of them is currently in the UK commissioning this parsnip cutter. So that's using Omron PLCs. He's doing some, he hasn't written the whole program, but he's over there commissioning it. So he's doing minor changes to the code to make the equipment work. He's changing sensors. He's doing real R&D over there. When he comes back, I need him to pick up the design of it's actually this big job in Spain. So he's going to be picking up some of that design, and then he's going to go to Spain for 12 weeks. So it's really varied. We've had people that have come in and they've had time in procurement. The idea is you move around the whole business, but if you're an automation mechatronics type person, you're going to spend more time there than elsewhere. So it's really what you want to do. You can drive it to some extent. To some extent, it's driven by where we need people in the business. Does that answer that?
Yes, thank you. That's great.
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit of a combination of where we need people in the business, what motivates you the most, and what you enjoy doing and what your skill set is, and we weigh up all that to make sure you're in the right place within the business.
And we do have regular catch-ups to make sure we are exposing you to the areas of the business that you want to be exposed to, and put plans in place so that you can get there. So we do our utmost to make sure you're not pigeonholed in one area.
I suppose with people moving around different teams at different times, what's the team culture like? And with sort of with shared lunches or anything like that, or any events?
Yeah, we've got a slide about culture. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. Yeah, it's good. I can tell you that. But we'll come to that.
I was quite.
How's that?
We got 10 minutes left. So just before we get to the culture section, I just wanted to mention our Wyma has a goal to remain competitive. We're always thinking about the future, and we're thinking about where the future pack house will be and what's going to be in that. And so where do we need to start thinking about developing equipment? And so some of our key things that Ruben may have mentioned before is, we think there's a real push on automation at the moment, and the future pack house is going to have very minimal labor. So we're always looking into more automated solutions for the customer, more reliable automated solutions as well. So this is what we're envisioning is, only whole line supervisors and almost essentially no labor on the line, and they're operating 24/7. Already we're seeing very automated bin handling and shuttling across